Preview.
What's up, guys? Hey, it's Colton and Lindsay coming at you here inside of the Fearless Agent Facebook group. I want to discuss with you how to make sure that you get your listing contract signed on the first appointment. What if you could do that? What if you could set an appointment, show up at the front door, go to the kitchen table, and get them to sign your listing agreement on that very first meeting? Would it change your business? Would it change your life? We're going to discuss that today. When we get into the listing presentation, we have to understand that there are 6 different steps in moving through. From the start of the introduction, we move to the what's called the polka, or the preview of coming attractions, where we go to the most important part, and this is where we're going to spend our time today. It's the fear of loss questions. It's the questions that set them up with no wrong answer if you ask the questions correctly. Next, you're going to move into the listing presentation, pricing strategy, and then you're going to close with the contract and actually give them the pen and sign. But how is it that you get to that point where you give them the pen and they sign the contract? Well, it's quite simple. In the third part of your presentation, it's called your fear of loss questions. We're going to focus on two parts. The first part is, what do they expect from you when they hire you? And number 2 is, where are they trying to accomplish? Where are they going? What's their motivation? And through that section, what you want them to do is you want them to sell you on why the other guy sucks and why you are the guy or gal for the job. And so you can do that 2 different ways. Number 1 is just ask better questions. When we ask better questions, we get better answers. I remember early on in my career, Coach Bob Leffler from Fearless Agent said to me, hey, if you don't like the answers you're getting, ask a different question. So I started doing that. I started thinking, what answer do I want to my questions? And then I said, well, let's ask the questions based on the answers, not the questions based on let's guessing the answers. The second thing that I did, was really, really important, is I got my questions answered. So one of the questions that I always ask at the beginning of the fear of loss questions is, hey, if everything makes sense at the end of the night, you feel comfortable and confident, yes, we can sell your house, the price makes sense, everything's great, it looks attractive to you, would there be anything stopping us from doing business tonight? That is one of the toughest questions to ask, but I make them answer. I don't make them answer it the way I want them to answer on that one particularly, but I see what they say. And a lot of times they either say yes, or we're gonna have to think about it, we're gonna have to hear what you have to say. But I wanna get that question out very, very early on. When I ask questions like, okay, so when you sell your house, where are you moving to next? I got to get them to answer those questions. I gotta get them to say, hey, I'm moving to Chicago, and I got them to tell me why it's important to them. So, okay, you're selling your house, you're moving to Chicago, and you gotta be there by July. What's important about that for you? Well, because I got a job opportunity that expires by July 15th, I gotta be there with or without my family. Okay, so now we're starting to get some motivation. So here's the secret. Get your questions answered and ask better questions. If you do that, you will set yourself up to naturally ask them to sign the question at the very end of the presentation. So here's the flow again. Number 1, start with an introduction. Say the same thing every single time so you go into go mode. Part 2 is what's called the preview coming attractions. Tell them what you're going to tell them. And the third part, which we've discussed today, is asking fear of loss questions. Stack those problems. What would it do to your plans if you were unable to sell your house and actually get to Chicago for the job transfer? Would that even be a big deal for you? And let them answer. Bite your tongue if you have to. And let them bring out, well, you know what? I've got to be there because if I don't sell the house by July, I'm leaving my family here because we're taking the job. Plus, we got family in there, Chicago. Okay, so it would be a big deal if your house wasn't sold by July 15th. That's what you're saying. And then they're going to say yes. And you're going to be like, great. I can make absolutely certain your house is sold. That is what's key when you're asking these questions and they respond. You got to reassure and put the confidence in them as a fearless agent that you will get the job done. Remember, your job is not to convince them to hire you. It's to convince them that you're convinced they're crazy if they don't. That's what we got to look at this. Number 4 is you're going to move into the listing presentation. Number 5 is the pricing strategy. Number 6, you're going to present the contract in such a powerful way that you naturally hand them the pen and they pick it up and they sign the contract for heaven percent. If you've got to come back a second or third or fourth time, you're doing it wrong. You're wasting time. You're losing customers. You're losing clients. To learn more, go to fearlessagent.com. For those of you guys who are Fearless Agent, I appreciate you being here. Check out Fearless Agent. Talk to my mentor, my coach, my best friend, Mr. Bob Leffler, who's done so much for me in my business. I hope that he can help yours as well. Thanks, and we'll see you later.